This is KSUT Public Radio, and regional news is next. President Donald Trump has signed proclamations that dramatically reduce the size of two national monuments. David Condos reports for the Mountain West News Bureau from Utah, where both monuments are located.
Trump cut the size of Grand Staircase Escalante by 90% and Bears Ears by 91%. He shrunk both monuments in 2017, too, before Biden restored them in 2021. But these cuts are even bigger. Autumn Gillard is a Southern Paiute woman and a coordinator with the Grand Staircase Escalante Intertribal Coalition. She's disappointed their perspective was not included.
These are very sacred cultural landscapes. They are connected to who we are as Indigenous people of the Colorado Plateau.
But Utah political leaders say these large pieces of federal land are examples of government overreach. Celeste Myers welcomes the reduction. She's a Kane County commissioner near Grand Staircase and believes it could help economic prospects with mining and logging.
I hope it opens up for a little more prosperity, different ways to make livelihood rather than tourism and recreation.
Conservation groups say they plan to challenge the actions in court. I'm David Condos in St. George.
Parts of the Roan Plateau in western Colorado are under threat of land leasing for oil and gas. At the same time, the Trump administration's Interior Department proposes drastic changes to speed that process for drillers. For Rocky Mountain Community Radio, KDNK's Catalina Villarreal took a flight over the Roan Plateau to have a look and to learn more.
Last month, the Bureau of Land Management floated its proposal to sell leases on over 126,000 acres of public lands in Colorado for oil and gas drilling. On June 9th, a 30-day scoping period began for 114 parcels to be brought to auction in December. Some of those parcels are in the Roan Plateau, which towers 3,000 feet above the Colorado River near Rifle. This remote and largely pristine area is home to diverse and rare species of flora and fauna. On my tour with EcoFlight, I scoped the proposed leasing parcels. As we approached the plateau, I was surprised to see how much land had already been developed and extracted. Roads disrupted and made bare what would have been land covered in aspen stands, mountain meadows, juniper, and more. While flying over the proposed lease areas, I noticed how lush and green all the vegetation was. We flew past a glistening stream home to pristine cutthroat trout. When back on land, I sat with Dean Riggs, now retired from Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
The most significant thing of all of this is that we continue to lose habitat by the bucket load. The question then becomes, well, where's wildlife supposed to be then? Where does wildlife have an opportunity to live on the landscape and do all of the necessary steps to survive and be meaningful populations of wildlife?
The Roan Plateau is also home to elk herds, mule deer, greater sage grouse, and endemic plants like the parachute penstemon.
And so then you start to think, well, what's it going to look like 60 years from now? Are we still going to have the biggest elk population in the United States? And that habitat that we're going to lose out of these things is, it's you can't put a price tag on it. I mean, it's not a nice to have. You got to have it.
Federal policy changes may significantly cut local voices out of the Bureau of Land Management's public land planning process. Even as the BLM scopes December lease sales for Colorado and Arizona, the U.S. Department of the Interior proposed changes to the oil and gas leasing process, announced in late June. One rule change would reduce public participation from 90 days to 10 days. In the Federal Register notice, the Interior Department said the goal is to significantly expedite the process. For KDNK News, I'm Catalina Villarreal.
A pilot supporting firefighting operations on the Gold Mountain fire near Uray was killed Sunday when his aircraft crashed into a nearby reservoir, as KVNF's Audrey McCabe reports. For the Rocky Mountain Community Radio Coalition, community members lined the streets of Montrose on Monday to pay their respects.
The crowd was solemn as a line of emergency vehicles passed. The procession was escorting the body of Nicholas Dale, a helicopter pilot who died while fighting the Gold Mountain fire on Sunday. The first responders drove by with stoic expressions and their eyes on the road ahead of them. But there was palpable emotion among the residents watching.
When you have people that are brave enough to risk their lives to help us and make life better for us, you can't help but be on this lineup with all these flags and get teary-eyed because a young man gave his life in order to protect us. And so it's meaningful.
That was Montrose County Commissioner Sue Hansen. Dale, the pilot, was a 56-year-old man from Souk, British Columbia. He was the sole occupant of the helicopter, which was engaged in suppression efforts for the Gold Mountain fire. The aircraft went down shortly after 5 p.m. Sunday evening and crashed into the Silverjack Reservoir. Commissioner Kirsten Copeland found meaning in the procession's attendance.
I think it reflects the Montrose community, how much our first responders mean to all of us. You know, my husband is a police officer, and I know that firefighters, police officer, wildland firefighters, all of those folks put themselves at risk every day to protect us, and I think this community recognizes that and shows up.
The crash is currently being investigated by the National Transportation Safety Board and the Federal Aviation Administration.
That report was from KVNF's Audrey McCabe for the Rocky Mountain Community Radio Coalition. We continue with a related story. In recent weeks, there have been 4 firefighter deaths. As the Mountain West News Bureau's Murphy Woodhouse reports, a new handbook seeks to help firefighters and their families cope with the challenges every dangerous season brings.
Olivia Holter is a Utah-based licensed psychologist whose husband is a wildland firefighter. Last year, their young son was playing with a toy helicopter when the danger of the fire line suddenly became clear and overwhelmed him.
I was like, wow, this is a potentially traumatic event for our son. And I started kind of digging into what resources were out there and really realizing that there's nothing for families.
That's exactly what the advocacy group Fired Up was responding to with its new Wildland Firefighter Family Handbook. It's a practical guide for firefighter partners containing everything from a glossary of fire line terms to tips when a parent is gone most of the summer. Holter authored the mental health section.
I want to normalize the emotions.
Feeling anxious, she says, is a normal response when your partner is on a fire without cell service. And there are also things you can do to better cope with those feelings. For the Mountain West News Bureau, I'm Murphy Woodhouse.
Also from the Mountain West News Bureau, marijuana sales hit their lowest level in a decade in one of the first states to legalize its use recreationally. That's Colorado. As some nearby states have relaxed their laws in recent years, cannabis tourism has declined. Stores that don't depend on tourism appear more stable, says Dan Morgan, a co-founder of Social Dispensary. That's a chain of 9 Denver area stores.
I do see in markets like Denver, Boulder, those markets are going to be pretty stable.
In the first quarter of this year, customers in Colorado purchased $312 million in cannabis. That's down 4% compared to a year ago. One of the strictest state bans on abortion in the country could soon be overturned. Voters in Idaho will be asked whether they want to restore abortion rights this coming November. For the Mountain West News Bureau, Julie Lucata has more.
The organization Idahoans United for Women and Families has gathered enough qualifying signatures in support of the Reproductive Freedom and Privacy Act ballot initiative. If passed, the law would allow abortions up to fetal viability and when the health of the mother is in danger.
Put very simply, this law restores us to the standard that we had under Roe in Idaho for nearly 5 decades.
That's Melanie Falwell, director of the campaign. The campaign collected roughly 110,000 signatures over the last 10 months and relied on the help of more than 1,200 unpaid volunteers.
That was Julia Lucata reporting for the Mountain West News Bureau. Support for local and regional news on KSUT Public Radio comes from the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority.
Support for public policy reporting comes from the Gay and Lesbian Fund for Colorado, promoting programs designed to ensure all Coloradans have the same opportunity to thrive. More information is online at gayandlesbianfund.org.